vraiment à ce niveau-là qu'il y a un manque important. On manque de ressources humaines, on manque de financement.
A curfew is imposed on a small First Nation in Quebec to help curb crime.
When we share knowledge, we don't have to explain who we are.
A new journal launches Métis Voices.
I'd encourage her to go for and to pursue whatever she believes in, no matter if other people don't follow her.
And a feature look at the Two-Spirit community in northern Quebec. Good evening, I'm Leanne Sanders. Welcome to APTN National News. The Prime Minister is on a 2-day visit north of 60. He's touring communities dramatically impacted by wildfires and meeting with Indigenous leaders and first responders in Enterprise, Hay River, and N.W.T First Nation. This is all that remains of Enterprise after a wildfire in August tore through the 120-person hamlet. 90% of the community burned, and only a handful of people have come back. Today, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is seeing the destruction firsthand. He's joined by Premier Carolyn Cochrane and Member of Parliament Michael McLeod as he hears harrowing stories. The territory saw nearly 70% of its population displaced by the fires. Trudeau has been visiting with Métis leaders this afternoon and arrives in Yellowknife for meetings tomorrow. Members of Labrador's Innu Nation are in Ottawa this week. They say a memorandum of understanding between the federal government and the N.W.T Community Council is with an illegitimate Indigenous organization. That MOU is currently the subject of a legal challenge by the Innu Nation in federal court. APTN's Fraser Needham has more.
Innu Nation Grand Chief Simon Poku doesn't mince his words. He says recognition of Labrador's N.W.T Community Council, or NCC, is a threat to his nation.
A group who call themselves NCC, that they want to take our rights, they want to take our lands.
The Liberals signed the MOU with NCC in 2019 under former Crown Indigenous Relations Minister Carolyn Bennett. However, Innu Nation lawyer Senwing Luck says even by the government's own standards, NCC does not qualify as an Indigenous organization.
Never found that the NCC are an Aboriginal people of Canada. So what doesn't make sense for Innu Nation is why Canada would be talking to NCC as if they do have Section 35 rights.
Peter Panashaway is a former Conservative MP for Labrador who served in Stephen Harper's cabinet. He says the NCC represents what has become a growing problem across Canada, where groups falsely claim indigeneity.
There is money involved in being an Indigenous group, whether it's from government, whether it's from the resources. So now you have people coming from everywhere, declaring themselves or purporting to be an Indigenous group because there are benefits.
For his part, NCC President Todd Russell firmly maintains his organization legitimately holds Section 35 Indigenous rights.
No other Indigenous group has the right to determine our identity, particularly the identity of us as Inuit. And in fact, this is an understanding that is within not only the Indigenous community generally within Canada, but this is understood internationally.
In an emailed statement, the Department of Crown Indigenous Relations says the MOU is an act of goodwill, and that it does not create, recognize, or deny any constitutional or legal right to either party. The federal court dates that had been set for Wednesday and Thursday have been postponed. Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.
A violent assault last month in Lac Simon First Nation in Quebec forced that community to implement a curfew for the youth to stem the violence and vandalism plaguing the territory. Maricela Amador has more.
It is the third curfew in 3 years for the youth of Lac Simon, where 70% of the population is under 30.
C'est très récent.
Chief Lucien Wabananik of the Lac Simon Anishinaabe Nation Council said that violence and crime have intensified over the last few months. He cited multiple factors for this, including the evacuation of the community because of wildfires, a housing crisis, and the pandemic.
On veut bien faire les choses, mais on manque beaucoup de ressources. C'est vraiment à ce niveau-là qu'il y a un manque important. On manque de ressources humaines, on manque de financement.
Between 8 p.m. and 7 a.m., youth under 18 must remain indoors. Since the curfew went into effect, volunteer security guards recognized by local police have been patrolling the streets.
Pour le moment, c'est vraiment la sécurité de nos gens, de nos aînés. Il y a une crainte de se promener même le soir maintenant. On l'entend, ça.
Community member Micheline Anishinaabe, who works in outreach at the local schools, said that people demanded action by the band council. She added that despite the curfew, some youths are still out at night until they are apprehended and brought back home.
Quand je rencontre des enfants, ils ne s'expriment pas du vandalisme qu'ils font. Ils ne savent pas pourquoi ils font ça. Parce que hier, j'étais témoin de ça, puis là, ils disaient, je sais pas.
She said that after the school day is over, the youth have nowhere to go, so they roam the streets.
Ici, dans la communauté, on n'a pas de maison des jeunes, on n'a pas assez d'activités pour les jeunes. On n'a pas de ça dans la communauté. Puis, comme je t'ai dit, on a plus de 800 à 900 jeunes, moins de 18 ans dans la communauté.
APTN spoke with a few youths in front of the local high school who said that they did not mind the curfew. Lena Jane Gunn, a mother of young children, said that she supported the curfew, but that more solutions are needed.
Je sais pas, peut-être encadrer les enfants puis garder les enfants au sport. Les faire bouger.
Chief Wabananik emphasized that parents also have to do their part. Otherwise, the band council may involve youth protection and even consider banishment from the community for repeat offenders.
Donc, on a un problème aussi au niveau policier, au niveau de l'effectif. On manque de policiers dans la communauté. Ça, c'est un autre enjeu qu'on doit régler avec les gouvernements rapidement.
APTN contacted Indigenous Service Canada but did not hear back in time for broadcast. Maricela Amador, APTN National News, Lac Simon, Quebec.
We want to hear what you think about the story you just saw and our other top stories. Here's how to continue the conversation. If you have a story you want to share, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. To read and watch our stories, go to aptnnews.ca. You can also find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X, previously known as Twitter. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. We have to take a quick break now, but here's what we're working on for you.
Hi, I'm Charlotte Moritz-Jacobs reporting from the Gjoa, Fort Smith, Northwest Territories.
And I think once those buildings are torn down and we can see new buildings, then maybe new life will come into Fort Smith.
A look into the last standing former residential schools in the territory. Decolonizing health and wellness through cultural practices. And the fight for Métis rights in Wood Buffalo National Park.
Why didn't we get a treaty? And we should have got a treaty, and there's compensation due to us.
That's coming up soon on APTN National News.
Welcome back. Inuit students in Gjoa Haven are interviewing elders in their community to save the traditional knowledge of their people while learning about their local history. Trevor Wright reports.
Students in the N.W.T community of Gjoa Haven are taking part in a project where they interview elders to help preserve their traditional knowledge.
We interview elders and we go back to history and then modern. We learn lots about our traditional ways back then.
The Nat-Talik Heritage Center in Gjoa Haven has partnered up with Queen's University to support this initiative. The interviews will be available locally for future generations.
And so this is a really valuable way to, not only for them to work directly with elders, but to then create a resource that is available to the community and to younger Inuit who come after them.
The students say the elders of Gjoa Haven were happy to see such a project take place.
It was a good experience because the elders were happy to see young faces and be a part of the program.
And so we've been really pleased at how the elders have really embraced the process as well, because they really like to see themselves and their stories being documented.
The project is going until 2025. However, they're hoping to find support to help extend the project beyond that.
This is an incredibly strong group. They're really dedicated to one another, and they're really dedicated to the work. In a nutshell, the project can't exist without their participation.
What's important is we listen to our elders and we need to know more of our traditional ways and keep them alive.
Trevor Wright, APTN National News, Gjoa Haven.
Like any other town or big city, the Inuit community of Kuujjuaq has a 2S LGBTQ community. It recently started holding a pride parade every year, but 2S LGBTQ people there still have a ways to go on the road to acceptance, according to Two-Spirit Inuit. Emilia Fournier has more.
So this third song I wrote about this girl that I think was the first person that I was ever in love with.
Nevi Snowball is only 16 years old, but they've already made waves in their small Inuit community of Kuujjuaq in northern Quebec.
We can run away and live forever on the beach, we'll ride together.
When they performed a song dedicated to their girlfriend at the time at a local festival last year.
Some older Inuit generation who was friendly with me before have gotten really cold towards me. Or for example, I'll be going through school and someone will just scream the F slur towards me. Then maybe it will last forever.
They say they've coped with this rejection through music.
For me, as a musician, whenever I go through something super traumatic or just an experience that has stayed with me, as long as I get a good song written out of it, then I think it was worth it.
Nevi is Two-Spirit. For them, the term represents the duality of their gender and sexuality. They say they wake up feeling different every day, reflected in how they present themselves.
If I feel masculine and I get feminine, then I'll feel terrible. But if I feel feminine, I'll get all dressed up and everything. Yeah, I feel like my femme days are when I look most presentable because my outfits look the coolest on those days.
Nevi says they have a good relationship with their parents, even if they forget to use their pronouns sometimes.
I'd encourage her to go for and to pursue whatever she believes in, no matter if other people don't follow her. This is something, is very true to who I am and true to her, so I'm very proud of her.
Nevi plays music with their dad and goes berry picking with their mom, Isabelle Dubois, who hopes to see the community become a safer space for their child.
Ce chandail-là résume pas mal ce que j'aimerais voir au Nunavik. C'était difficile des fois de la voir comme souffrir d'intimidation à cause qu'elle voulait juste être elle-même. Et là, je dis elle, mais je devrais dire yel en français. on s'habitue.
Nivi also has support from their chosen queer family. That includes Two-Spirit youth APTN N.W.T, who befriended queer people while they were still in the closet.
Throughout high school, I was like collecting them, and I didn't even know. Like, I'd just make friends, and then later on, be like, "Oh yeah, I'm bi or I'm gay," and it's like, I guess I knew.
APTN says more education and pride events are needed in the community.
I feel like it has gotten a bit better in terms of people knowing more about like gender, sexuality, and letting people be who they are. But it's still a little, I don't know how to say, but it's like still very not a talked about topic.
APTN helped organize Kuujjuaq's first ever Pride Parade in 2021 with their friend Toby Nasuk, who is also a member of Nivi's chosen family. He came out as a trans man when he was 13, but now he identifies as Two-Spirit, and his chin tattoo represents acceptance of femininity.
I finally came out to myself as Two-Spirit, and then I gave myself the tattoo. So I'd already been identifying as like a masculine person for a super long time. So getting my tattoo, it was kind of like a solidifier of like, I'm allowed to be feminine as someone who like feels masculine like in my soul.
He said his identity got a mixed reaction from family, but overall had a decent experience at school.
There wasn't a really big fuss and nobody really talked about it per se, but also nobody was necessarily hateful. My classmates respected my pronouns and my name when it got changed. Nobody really asked any intrusive questions. Most of my transition, like in regards to living up north, has been pretty chill.
Tommy Sequaluk says that Kuujjuaq has come a long way in accepting queerness since he came out as gay at 18.
Ici, tout est religieux, catholique, puis c'était dur à grandir ça, puis toute la famille était catholique. Là.
Luckily, he had support from a chosen family of his own.
Tous mes amis étaient avec moi, étaient tous à côté à chaque fois. Puis la communauté n'acceptait pas au début, mais là, c'est normal.
This year's Pride Parade was the most well attended, something that made Tommy emotional.
J'étais vraiment fier, là. J'ai presque pleuré en plus. J'étais vraiment content. Tout le monde était là pour nous autres.
In the wake of colonization, Nivi and Toby want to encourage queer Indigenous people to look to their culture while they're exploring their identities.
Before we got colonized, we had so much information about like queer people. Like there were, when someone was trans in that community, for example, someone was born male and they wanted to be female, that person would switch from male roles to female roles and be treated as a woman by the whole community.
After like finally like ripping off the Band-Aid and deciding that I am Two-Spirit and coming out as Two-Spirit, I've been like so much more comfortable in my identity as an Innu and as a trans person, because as Indigenous people and as trans people, like those identities cannot be separated.
Emilia Fournier, APTN National News, Kuujjuaq, Quebec.
Coming up, we're going to learn about a new journal specifically for Métis people. Back after this. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. Carrie Bennett shared with us this sunset from late August from the beautiful region of Fort Qu'Appelle, Saskatchewan. Thanks, Carrie. We enjoy all the photos. Keep them coming by sending them to share@aptn.ca. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast tomorrow, St. John's 13, Charlottetown and Halifax 17. Northern Quebec, Kuujjuaq 7, and Nain 8 in Newfoundland, Labrador. Southern Quebec, Chibougamau 8, Saguenay 11. North Bay, Ontario 11 tomorrow and partly cloudy, Toronto and London 15. Northern Ontario mostly cloudy tomorrow, Big Trout Lake 9, Wawa 12. In northern Manitoba, Churchill partly cloudy in 11 tomorrow and Thompson 10. Southern Manitoba, Barons River and Princess Harbour 13 and Dauphin 10. Southern Saskatchewan, partly cloudy and 12 tomorrow in Saskatoon. Northern Saskatchewan, Uranium City sunny and 12, Stony Rapids sunny and 14. Northern Alberta, high level, partly cloudy and 13 tomorrow, Fort Chip sunny and 13. Edmonton sunny and 17 and Calgary cloudy and 12. Southern BC, Quesnel 16 and clouds, Bella Coola sunny and 18. Dease Lake partly cloudy and 9 and Smithers mainly sunny and 14. Old Crow -4 and Mayo 6. In the Northwest Territories tomorrow, Norman Wells 3, Wrigley and Fort Simpson partly cloudy and 9. Inuvik -1 tomorrow and Colville Lake 1. Baker Lake 7 and Chesterfield 8. Nunavut, Iqaluit 0 tomorrow and Pangnirtung partly sunny and 0. Igloolik +1. A dream shared by 6 Métis scholars from across the country has come true. They're publishing the first issue of a Métis-specific journal called Pawatimiq, Journal of Métis Thinkers. Pawatimiq roughly translates from Michif and Cree to group of people dreaming. The publication creates space for Métis scholars and community alike to share their stories, poetry, and dreams for the future. Everyone involved, from the authors to the editors, are Métis, making it the first of its kind in Canada. Anyone can read Pawatimiq online to connect with the community for free. Dr. Laura Forsyth is a co-editor of the journal.
One of the things about being a Métis scholar or being in a Métis community of thinkers is that when we get together and when we share knowledge, we don't have to explain who we are. We know who we are. We don't have to spend half the paper explaining to the reader who is the Métis and what makes us Métis. We can actually talk about real issues. In the first edition, we see stories around queer identities. We see stories around just being on the land. We see stories about what is happening in the Academy for Métis folks without having to have that other level and layer of trying to explain who we are.
In Focus went on location to the second annual Indigenomics She Conference in Winnipeg and caught up with women who are making their mark in the world of business and finance. It's an event for like-minded women to create contacts and educate others in topics that'll have a positive impact in their communities.
I think that what I'm seeing is that Indigenous women in business are becoming an unstoppable force, that the spaces of leading, of innovation, of impact, and really how much that's essential to a future vision of ourselves.
Learned a lot from my grandmother, and when she was growing up, we didn't have all of the spaces that we have today to showcase the amazing work that Indigenous women are doing in all of these different spaces, whether it's, in mainstream finance, entrepreneurialism, and these events showcase all the awesome work that we're doing across the country.
It influences the academics and higher education as well, which
in turn will allow more folks to be educated in this space, and it will become more mainstream in post-secondary institutions, and then hopefully for younger kids who are in high school or grade school who want to feel represented and like their history is being acknowledged in the space.
And now I have some news of my own to share. I'm returning to Saskatchewan to be closer to family. Thank you for allowing me into your homes each evening. It has been a privilege to share some time with you. Good night.